Hi guys, welcome back to the Average Pundits podcast, your home of all things Premier League. And we finally reached it. We've reached the end of the Premier League season after a pretty memorable campaign with an amazing run from Liverpool, a very big break due to the coronavirus. We have finally reached the end of the Premier League season, and we've got a very good overview episode for you with a very special guest. First things first, though, I will introduce my co-host, Reese. How you doing, Reese?
Campeones, campeones, ole, ole, ole. Yeah. It's been a good Premier League season, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Very positive for you. Didn't think I'd be saying, seeing Liverpool win anything in my lifetime, but here we are. And we've got to make peace of it and move forward. So fair play, Reece. Well done. But we will introduce our guest today. We have a British Basketball League and Worcester Wolves alumni member and a University of Worcester men's first team basketball star and a lifelong Arsenal supporter, Mr. Daniel Johnson-Thompson. How you doing, Dan?
Hello, I'm good. I'm better.
I was going to say as an Arsenal supporter, I think you've had a definitely an interesting season, a bit of a run through the mill with different manager changes.
Yeah, definitely.
Just getting your opinion on it overall. How do you feel like the season's gone as kind of a neutral football fan? Just being a fan of the Premier League.
It's been I think the season's been a bit overrated, to be honest. I think Liverpool's glory shouldn't be as hyped as it should, because I feel like every other team's underperformed. So yeah, but other than that, it's been entertaining, I guess. But it's been a bit boring in the same time because of the whole just being a one-horse race, to be honest.
I can't help but agree to an extent with that, because obviously Liverpool have definitely ran away with it. They've been excellent in the long run in their performances. But I feel like a season where you've also had, as a sports person yourself, you'll know the impact that the coronavirus has had on a sporting season, causing a dramatic halt to all playing. And, we've had so long out of the mill of watching football that you come back into it and the season's got to be overshadowed to quite a large extent by what's happened. As an athlete yourself, how have you been coping with that break?
It's been very boring. Just trying to train, using all the resources I have. But it's having football back and being able to watch football did help a lot, because life is boring without sports, in my opinion. So yeah, it's been good to watch that, watch the Premier League, FA Cup, and all the other football competitions that have been happening. And can't wait for the Champions League to start as well.
Yeah, 100%. That is one good thing that we have got. Just letting you or the listeners know, now that the Premier League season has come to an end, obviously our Premier League content has finished on our social media platforms, but we will be keeping you updated with new transfers, new kits, all that kind of stuff. But we will be guest covering the English team's performances in the Europa League and the Champions League. So stay tuned to the Twitter and stay tuned to the Instagram to keep up to date with all of that. Reece, I'm going to come to you as well and just hear about your opinions on how you think the season's gone.
I think my opinions might be a bit biased, to be honest. I do get where Dan's coming from here. It was a bit boring, towards a bit of the season. It got a bit interesting because we had that massive loss to Watford, and I think as a whole, it's not known for its memorable moments. Whereas a lot of other seasons prior have been. I think the relegation battle this season was a bit more interesting than most years. Before, you would know who's going down a couple of weeks in advance, and the relegation battle wouldn't really mean a lot. Whereas this season, it was actually to the last day. We knew Norwich were going down, and I think we'll talk a bit about Norwich in a bit. But until the last day, we were thinking, who's going down out of Villa, Watford, and Bournemouth? And I think that side of the table was really exciting. And to see certain teams that, again, we'll talk about in a minute, come out of this season and kind of surprised us. And it's been nice to see a few new faces in the tops of the league.
Yeah, we've definitely had a league where some clubs have definitely surprised us, and I think you've got a few inclusions to mention.
Yeah, so I've got three teams here that I thought it was very surprising to see where they were. I'll go first with the one that I think surprised us all the most, and that's Sheffield United. They were promoted. A lot of the season they were fighting for the Europa League. Their team spirit and their morale was all through the roof. They ended up finishing 9th, which it's a mid-table finish and just outside the Europa League spots. I think they've been fantastic this season.
Yeah, definitely. I think Chris Wilder's definitely kind of breathed a lot of life into them and bringing them into the Premier League and keeping as consistent as they are. They finished just behind Dan's club, Arsenal. I believe Arsenal finishing with 56 and Sheffield finishing with 54 points. Dan, as obviously an Arsenal fan competing in that kind of like same bracket as Sheffield this season, was it somewhat disheartening to see your club maybe not being at the top where they should be?
Yeah, it was hard to watch at the beginning, but then you got to face reality. And it's not like we're too many points off like fourth place. Like I think we're only 10 points off third or fourth. I think they were both on 66 points actually. I think so. And if certain games went our way, like obviously every other team can say that, but for example, there's been good signs. Like even though we lost to Tottenham, that game we dominated, and it was positive. Like it was a positive game in the sense where we played well and stuff. Obviously, just the defense let us down. And it's been certain games like that. So I'm not worried for the future, especially under Arteta. But yeah, it was weird seeing us in 8th position or 9th, wherever we are. Just it's a bit weird seeing us there, but hopefully we won't stay there for the near future.
No, definitely. I feel like Arteta, you when these new managers come in, you definitely have to give them time. But Sheffield 100% having a really interesting season in the Premier League. Chris Wilder 100%, I think, is the man to carry on at that club. I think great performances from players like Baldock, Dean Henderson, Ollie McBurney. They've had some absolutely brilliant players this season. So 100% Reece, I think I agree with your inclusion there.
This one might not necessarily be as surprising as potentially Sheffield United were, but I feel like with the manager coming into it and the talks about ownership coming into the season, I think that the fans were very disheartened, and I think that a lot of the teams will write this team off before, especially finishing 13th the previous season, and this season keeping up that momentum, and that's Newcastle United.
Newcastle definitely straight away when Steve Bruce was appointed, obviously everyone was kind of a bit disheartened. You see a man like Rafa, who we've mentioned in previous episodes of this season, especially like Alex Smith came on and he gave a really, an interesting opinion on the Newcastle fans' opinion of Rafa Benitez, and he is somewhat idolised at that club. So when he obviously steps down and Steve Bruce comes in, a lot of people were quite underwhelmed, I feel, and I feel like this season Steve Bruce has almost redeemed himself. He's put up some really good performances, and there are some really good players amongst that Newcastle side. Dan, do you feel like with a bit of a money injection, Newcastle could become like the next super club in the Premier League?
It's weird because obviously I don't really know much of the history of Steve Bruce's managerial career apart from when he was at Sunderland or something like that. But like obviously I feel like every manager deserves time, and like they might not play the most attractive brand of football, but he knows what he's doing. I feel like he knows how to get results. And I feel like maybe with time and the right amount of money and the right amount of scouting, I wouldn't say it's a big club, but I feel like they could maybe push the Europa League in the future. But I don't know if it'll be under him or another manager.
That is the question, isn't it, at the moment, is whether, although Steve Bruce has been consistent this season, it's whether he is the man to take them forward. And Reece, do you feel like Steve Bruce could potentially be there? Or, I've heard earlier in the season, we've mentioned Maurizio Pochettino or possibly Rafa coming back to do the job.
There are always better managers than Steve Bruce, let's be fair. I think with Brucey, it's kind of, like I said before, him being appointed, everyone was like, okay, the season's a write-off for Newcastle. They're immediately relegation candidates. And we look at the season, it's not to be. I think he's been saved, like, with Mike Ashley forcing pretty much the club to sign Jolinton has been a massive step back for them. I think if they would have invested that 30 million somewhere else, we could have been looking at a potential Sheffield United story for Newcastle instead and investing that where it matters. I mean, you look at the performances of guys like Alan St. Maximan this season and, guys like Almiron as well. These players have been playing really well. Jamal Lascelles has been playing really well. They brought in a lot of good players like Lazaro from Inter Milan and Jetro Willems as well. And I think it's been like as these are being labelled, a very surprising team this season for sure.
Yeah, they've 100% got the talent in their ranks. I mean, I think Lascelles at the back. I think he's a very good captain. I think if you get the players around him potentially with this takeover, which may not happen. It's all, constantly up in the air. But if it does come forward and they manage to get something from it, I feel like he could be the man to definitely take them forward. But another good inclusion, I feel, Reece, there. And I believe you've got one more.
Indeed. And I think that if we were looking at the season before, I don't think that we would have seen this team fighting as much for Champions League or as European spots as they did this season. And that's Leicester City.
Yeah, Leicester have definitely, again, been another club competing at the very highest ranks. Obviously, based on how the end of the season went, especially as a United fan, I could have been on this podcast either, keeping quite a level head and hosting it quite well, or I could have been just rocking in the corner crying.
I was hoping that this podcast was going to be the roast of Joe Brody.
It could have gone either way, honestly, but very, very, very thankfully, United were able to turn over Leicester. But, all credit to Leicester and Golden Boot winner Jamie Vardy. He 100% deserved it this season. Aubameyang coming very close, knocking on the door. But I think that those two this season have definitely been the best strikers in the league. But Leicester, yeah, like you said, still competing up there with the big guys. And obviously they've got Europa League next season. Dan, Leicester in the Europa League, how do you reckon they're going to fare in Europe?
I'm really not sure because obviously at the beginning of the season, I was thinking obviously they're performing well. They look like a solid side. I've always thought that they have the characters in the team. They have decent players in the team, like players that can play Champions League as well, like Vardy, Tielemans, Maddison. But I don't know. This last half of the season, they've really underperformed. So I'm not really too sure how they'll cope because last time they did well in the Champions League. I remember last time when they beat Atletico Madrid, I think or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they've got the squad depth, and I'm just not sure. And plus morale as well because I've seen a stat, and since Leicester beat Southampton 9-0, Southampton have earned more points in the Premier League than Leicester have, and that's a big fact because Southampton aren't exactly a big team. Do you know what I mean? With Leicester finishing, what was it, 5th?
Yeah.
Like the position they were in, they should have definitely finished top 4. Even if they had they just needed a more consistent run of points, but they didn't have that. Especially when the season restarted after lockdown. But so looking into that and that form there, I'm not sure about the Europa League because there are a few decent teams in Europe. I feel like they will definitely get out of the group stage, but other than that, I don't think they'll get further than that, to be honest.
No, that is a mental stat though, obviously, because that beating of Southampton rather did, it made headlines everywhere. It was absolutely incredible. I don't think anyone saw that coming, but that is a crazy stat. And like you said, going forward, when you compete in Europe, a lot of the time it is all about the squad depth because we know the players that they do have, the Ndidis, the Tielemans, the Maddisons, Vardy as well, they have got good players on face, but when it gets down to it, it really is about the squad depth. And obviously this transfer window, we were looking at a potentially very different climate due to the potentially how COVID-19 has, affected club earnings. Reece, do you feel like Leicester are going to have a tough time this transfer window?
I mean, I guess with the surprising teams, I want to give a special shout out to Southampton as well after that stat as well. But with Leicester, I think they're going to have a tough time keeping hold of a few players. If I'm honest, I think Wilfred Ndidi is being looked at a lot. Soyuncu as well. Sorry. I mean, even maybe the goalkeeper Schmeichel. They've got a lot of good players. Ben Chilwell could potentially be leaving, and again, they've got Yuri Tielemans, who is a very young player, and I think that he could be looking elsewhere to further his career and maybe get into a Champions League winning side. I could definitely see a team like maybe Atletico Madrid or definitely a top tier side, maybe a Monaco, signing this young talent as well.
Yeah, I mean the talent that they have got. When they signed Tielemans, I remember being just so frustrated, thinking, here's this kid coming out of the Belgian league who everyone knows about. He's not even a secret. Everyone's aware of how good he is, and he's made a couple of appearances for Belgium while still playing at Anderlecht. And then it's come to the stage where obviously Leicester have him on loan, and it's like, right, okay, here come the Arsenals, the Uniteds, the Cities, the Liverpools, and we're going to try and nab him. And then under everyone's nose, Leicester are like, nah, none of that. We're swiping him up. And I mean, fair play to them because they got themselves a hell of a player. But like you said, it's whether they can hold on to these players. But I guess that is all to see in where we've got coming up next season. But Reece, you had a few inclusions as well of teams who maybe didn't quite make the grade this season.
Oh yeah, I think that when we look at this season, there were a few teams that we were thinking would do 100% better than they actually did. And the first team I want to sort of pull into that conversation, a team that spent 100 million in the off season, and I was thinking they were going to finish around 11th, whereabouts Southampton and Burnley finished, but they finished just surviving the relegation drop, and they called it the Great Escape. But I don't think there's anything great about spending 100 million on players and not getting anything out of it, and that's Aston Villa.
Yeah, Villa when they started the season, and you saw the kind of money they were spending and the players they had around them, obviously Villa, and I don't think anyone really expected them to be at the height of heights, just being a newly promoted side. But when you come in and make and make an impact, and you're spending this kind of money from the get-go, you're expecting, big things. You're expecting the club to kind of hold their own a bit. And this season, by literally the skin of their teeth, Dean Smith's kept them in the league. And with players like, McGinn and Grealish, who are looking, quite heavily touted by other clubs, I think they're going to have a tough transfer window. Dan, what do you feel like Villa could potentially do in order to stay up for another season? Do you think they're going to be able to hang on to players like Grealish?
I think it's a tough one. I feel like Grealish may stay if the right offer doesn't come in the summer, but might go in the winter. But in order for them to stay up, I feel like they need to get players that already have Premier League experience. Because out of the signings they signed, the only person they signed that really had decent Premier League experience was Tyrone Mings, and the rest were all from different leagues or the leagues below, or haven't proved themselves in the Premier. Like Matt Targett hasn't really proved himself that much. Douglas Luiz, players like that. But yeah, I feel like they will. If they keep Grealish, I feel like they definitely will stay up. But they just need to spend more wisely next time, because spending 20-something million on Wesley, who's only scored like 5 goals or something like that, is crazy.
Yeah, I think Wesley is someone who definitely he came in for a fair fee and had a bit of a name about him already, but he just hasn't really been able to make a name for himself just yet. A strong figure at the back in Tyrone Mings as well, obviously making England caps as well. They've got themselves a player which I feel like has the passion as well and the drive to get a lot out of the club. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if Grealish leaves, if you see Tyrone Mings get made captain. I feel like he has got that fire in him to become, the leader of Aston Villa. But it's all to see if Grealish is going to go. That's the headline, which is facing Aston Villa at the moment. Reece, if Grealish did go, have you got any ideal destinations for him where you could see him potentially playing?
Well, there's one obvious answer here, and that's Manchester United. I think he's he'd be well suited there. But it's where do you fit him in? You've obviously got Bruno Fernandes, Pogba. I mean, there is a spot for an extra central midfielder, but that means you're very open. You've got 3 creative midfielders in that United squad. Where's your defence coming from? You've got 3 very deadly attackers in Martial, Rashford, and Greenwood, who are they're going nowhere. So you don't really replace him there. So I could see him, maybe like a Spurs. Like that could be an ideal destination for him. Or one place I can definitely not see him going is Wolves, because that'd be horrendous.
Yeah, I don't think that would go down too well, especially around the Midlands.
I mean, I could see him at Arsenal. To be fair, would you take him there?
Oh, I would happily take Grealish at Arsenal, but it's how you fit him in, because obviously we had to change up our formation to a 5 at the back because we're so bad at the back. But I feel like when we get the defenders in and we play the right formation, then he'll be able to fit in. But right now, I don't think he'll be able to fit in, because I don't really watch Aston Villa that much. I'm admit that. So I've watched like 2 games, and he's not obviously he's an attacking midfielder. You know what I'm saying? Where would we put him? Because we play 2 centre mids and then we play wingers and a striker. You know what I'm saying? And I know he can play out on the left, but I'd rather have Saka on the left than Grealish. You know what I'm saying? If that's yeah.
I think if it came down to it, if you are looking at like Grealish and Saka at the moment, he's he's been one of the brightest players at Arsenal. I think I saw the other day as well. He's been making headlines because he's potentially come into the choice of international loyalty, where he's either going to play for England or potentially play for Nigeria. So he's got a huge decision to make, because I feel like plays for England. I definitely think we see him in an England shirt, but it may take a bit longer for his development. But he could potentially get stuck into his international football really early and compete in, the World Cup, compete in the AFCON. There's opportunities for him, but it's an interesting point to see it with Grealish as well. It's all to see where he ends up, but definitely Aston Villa, Reece, as the first club, definitely not really pulling their weight that much. You had a second club as well.
I do indeed, and this team is someone. It's a team that, like, everyone thought we're going to do pretty well, but then looking at the teams that were competing with, like, for those European spots, you didn't necessarily think they would get top four. You knew they were going to get Europa League spots, for sure. But it's if they could have that potential with the new manager they brought in. They finished sixth, and that's Tottenham.
Yeah, Tottenham. Obviously, we've had Tottenham guests before on this podcast. We've had Dom, we've had Sam come in, and they've given their opinion on the club they love so much. But this season, it's got to be nothing but a loss for Tottenham, in my opinion. I think Mourinho's been. I don't know what they expected when they brought him in, really. I think they were going for the name. He was available, and although he's inherited a squad which isn't his, he's had a couple of signings, but he's inherited the squad which isn't his. So at the moment, when he has a full season under his belt, where he especially gets his signings in the summer with the way he wants them, maybe we'll see something a bit different. But 100% Mourinho maybe hasn't. I personally don't think he's the right man. Dan, obviously, as an Arsenal fan, I'm sure you have your opinions on Spurs, but Jose Mourinho, do you think he's the man to lead the job?
I don't personally think he's the man. I feel like they should have kept Poch, but at the same time, Pochettino must have lost the dressing room a bit for them to make that decision. And I feel like he's not, like, don't get me wrong, Mourinho's done a good job this season, because I think when he came in, they were 14th, and now obviously they finished 6th. But I feel like his philosophy and his brand of football is kind of outdated, and I don't think it's the type of football that will win you anything these days. Because let's be honest, and I'm going to keep referencing to that game, when we played them a few weeks back, like, they won the game because Arsenal gave them the game. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They scored from 2 of our mistakes, and you can't rely on that to win trophies. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know. I feel like he's lost it a bit. For one thing, I'm excited to watch that new documentary on their season on Amazon Prime. That would be funny to watch. But as an Arsenal fan, I can't really laugh that much, because they've once again finished higher than us. I mean, we still have the chance to win a trophy, but yes. It's a weird one, because he's done well, obviously, to bring them from 14 to 6, but at the same time,
yeah, definitely. That's something that me and Reece were talking about, because we were mentioning the Manchester City documentary, but obviously we've got the Tottenham one to come out for, and I've seen the clip, which has now gone pretty viral on Twitter, of Mourinho in the back room. I mean, I won't repeat his exact phrasing, but I
know what you're talking about.
I think most people have seen that now, and I remember just watching it thinking, like, I mean, okay, and then I watched it a second time and I kind of tilted my head a bit, and I was like, right, I don't really, like, I know what he's saying, but it just seems so weird the way Mourinho is going on about it.
Yeah, it shouldn't come from his mouth, to be honest. It's just,
yeah,
it feels like a bit forced.
But we've got like potentially like an hour and a half of that to look forward to, which will be pretty interesting. But Reece, Jose Mourinho, is he the man to lead him forward?
Now you look at Mourinho's achievements and you think, yeah, 10 years ago he could have done this job, but I think as Dan said, it's not the way that people play now. Mourinho's style of play can be found out very easily. I think it could work for a mid-table side, as we prove. I mean, we were talking about Leicester in the Europa League, but do Tottenham have that as well? Like, Spurs have an aging squad and a lot of injury woes to worry about. So if they can invest well, and Mourinho has the backing of the team and backing of maybe some young players, I think that Spurs could potentially move forward. But it's not Pochettino, and I think that's the big worry for a lot of Spurs fans. Like, yeah, he did lose the dressing room, but who can connect to those young players, the best. Would it be Mourinho? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, Mourinho's, has faced a lot of criticism in his career for not playing the youth, but signing was it Japhet Tanganga to a, I think it's a 5-year deal they've got him for, and he looks really promising. They've got obviously Ryan Sessegnon they bought in from Fulham, and I think they've got Jack Clark who they loaned out to Leeds this season. So those three guys, and other players like Oliver Skipp who are being integrated into the team. You never know, if Mourinho puts a lot of energy into them, a lot of focus on them, we could see a new Mourinho, But I feel like we've been saying this for a very long time, well, we could see a new Mourinho, but he seems pretty set in his ways a lot of the time. But you never know. This time could be the time.
And hopefully, unlike Carlo Ancelotti, Jose Mourinho knows when his young players are moving out the club.
Yes, that is a very good point. Ancelotti definitely.
That was horrendous.
His awareness.
I don't know who that is. I'm sorry.
Literally, again, that's another one of those things. You're going viral on Twitter and you're thinking, that is absolutely heart-wrenching. That is. Like, that guy must have been gutted.
He's been on the payroll for so long. And you think, I have no idea who this is. You've got this world-class manager. It's like, yeah, basically, you're rubbish, and I forgot you're at the club.
Yeah, that's pretty in like the night, like a kind of off way, like a really like a passive aggressive way, pretty much.
Yeah.
But you've got one last club, Reece.
I do, and I think Dan knows what's coming. I think that we all knew that this was coming. The team that finished 8th this year, they were absolutely abysmal. I mean, the problems are endless. Where do we start? It is Arsenal.
Dan, I'm gonna give you free reign of this. You're the man about Arsenal. I want to hear your opinion, mate.
Where do we start, really? I remember watching. Was our first game of the season against? I think it was against either Newcastle or Liverpool. I can't remember.
I believe this season. I think it was Liverpool. I'm pretty certain it was Liverpool.
It was Newcastle.
Newcastle.
And then we had Liverpool. I remember watching it in the pub, and we only lost 3-1. And I watched the game. It was with Unai Emery, and I was like, it's not too bad. Obviously, everyone was still confused about Emery and how he wants us to play and stuff, but he was getting results, like especially last season. And then it just all started to go downhill from there, really. And I don't know, it's just. I feel like we took too long to bring in Arteta. Like, we had Lumbo for... I mean, I can't really criticise that part because, obviously, I don't know about the negotiations and all that, but then we had Lundberg during the Christmas period. And it was all quite... That period was quite depressing as an Arsenal fan, I'm not going to lie. Like, it was just... I remember I was beating West Ham, and that was a relief because I generally didn't think we'd beat West Ham. I feel like that was our first win in, like, a few games. And it was just, yeah, I don't know. It's always the same story of Arsenal being in the defence and the defence letting us down. And also, you can't blame the goalkeepers because both the goalkeepers this season have been great for us.
Yeah.
I think, what's his name? Leno made one mistake this season that cost us the game. That was against Chelsea. But other than that, he's been great for us. And then obviously Martinez has been great. But it's just the same old defenders that just, like, when we brought Kolasinac in back in like 2016, I was hopeful and I was excited. He was in the team of the year in Bundesliga. He's a solid, strong left back who's got a bit of pace, bit of strength to him. He likes to attack, but after the first season, he's just, I don't know, his positioning is awful. He obviously loses concentration easily, and then you go and sign a player like David Luiz. I know that was more for leadership and helping the young players, which I've heard, like, he's a great leader, and all the young players at Arsenal love him, but when you actually have to play him, conceding 5 penalties in one season and the amount of mistakes he's made this season is a bit... And then it gets the worst. That's the thing, it gets even worse because then you go to Mustafi, who I don't even know how he can call himself a World Cup winner because it's actually... when I watch Mustafi defend, it's actually heartbreaking because I know if I had a better touch, I feel like I could be a better centre-back than him. But, yeah. And then, because everything else, you can't really complain. Like, I feel like our midfield's been solid. Jack is, like, even though he had that awful start of the season with the fans and stuff, like,
yeah,
I think the fans need to realise, like, athletes are humans too. And the criticism he was getting, like, every time Arsenal lost, it was his fault.
Yeah.
And then like I heard about the comments and stuff. So obviously he had his first baby this year or last in 2019, and like Arsenal fans commenting on it and stuff, like hateful comments. So of course he's not gonna, you know, he's gonna lose patience. When you're booing your captain off the pitch when he's being subbed off, like of course he's gonna react. Like or every person that criticised him in that moment, they can't say they wouldn't react the same way or worse. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. No, I can't help but agree. You know, like, there was probably in the Premier League at that given time, there was nobody who was facing the same criticism that Xhaka was facing in terms of, you know, criticising pure football ability on the pitch and at performances. And like you said, I mean, like, people are quick to forget. I mean, as an athlete yourself, you know better than any of us. Like, athletes are 100% people too, you know, and you know, sometimes it's not always 100%. Sometimes, you know, games don't go the way you want, but I think Xhaka, you know, in general, I think he's not one of Arsenal's worst players. I think he's had definitely a shaky patch at the start of the season, but you know, I definitely feel like there are other areas Arsenal need to focus on, and you touched on it yourself there when you mentioned about the defense. Reece, as you know, so we've definitely spoke about Arsenal before, and we've had Al on previously talking about Arsenal. The Arsenal defense, with Mustafi and David Luiz, it's 100% not looking ideal. And they've got William Saliba coming back in. But do you feel like they need to make some critical defensive signings this summer?
Critical, I think. I don't. I mean, I can't search for a word that's bigger than that, but I think even that's an understatement. I think that they're in desperate need of something there, and I think William Saliba could be the man that needs someone else to help him grow. Like we've been seeing with Van Dijk this year, I think we need someone like that to help William Saliba along. That's not David Luiz. No, no, no. That's not Mustafi either, even though, as Dan said, he's a World Cup winner. How he did that is beyond me.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of players that they could go for. It's just whether they are willing to skip out on Europa League and have a year out of European competition in order to come and play for Arsenal.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? A lot of the time, because we've mentioned on this podcast as well before, sometimes missing out for a season on the Champions League or on the Europa League can be so beneficial for a club. It's not always competing in Europe. You know, you need to, you know, pay a weighted attention to all kind of leagues. And I feel like if Arsenal have a season out of that mix, and you know they focus on their scouting and their development of the players they've got, and bring in a couple of big talents, because we know they've got money. Obviously, the owners have come under criticism before in the past for not maybe backing them as much as possible. But out of the 38 Premier League games Arsenal have played this season, they've had 14 wins and 10 losses, and the rest making up the draws. Dan, if you had to kind of focus on one area as well as defense, do you feel like maybe it's the attack which needs bolstering, or is it the midfield? You know, where would you be focusing on if you had the control of Arsenal?
oh, that's a tough one because I feel like if Guendouzi's to leave, then yeah, definitely midfielder. Or I don't know. It's tough. So I'm generally, as an Arsenal fan, I'm satisfied with the rest of the team because they performed all right. Like I feel like Danny Ceballos is a bit overrated sometimes. Like when you look at, I know it's not just the stats that matter, obviously, but when you look at his stats, he hasn't really done anything special. He's got like 2 goals and 2 assists or something.
Yeah.
But he's a solid player, and I feel like maybe an attacking midfielder for the future. Yeah, I feel like if anything else, yeah, it'd be like an attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Xhaka and Ceballos or Xhaka and Torreira, whoever he's partnered with, holding that like midfield, I think that's fine for the future and moving Arsenal forward. I feel like they're the players that can actually do that. But I think Joe Willock, I don't think he'll be good enough in the future to play as an attacking midfielder that in an Arsenal team that's winning trophies or challenging to win trophies. But maybe that's why we need a player like Grealish, you know. I don't know. But I'll definitely focus on defence, a centre-back. Because I feel like full-back-wise, Bellerin, he's average, so I'm not too bothered. Maitland-Niles, again, the same. And then left-back, yeah, I don't really like Kolasinac, but he's an okay backup to Tierney. So I'd probably say an attacking midfielder or another defensive midfielder, just shore up the defence or, you know, to look for the future and actually have someone ready to play the attacking field role. Because obviously Ozil, he's not even getting paid at the moment, but Ozil obviously he's hit like 30 or 31 now, so he's getting old. But it's a crazy stat. Another stat, because BT tweeted all these stats today, BT Sport, and it was how Ozil is he's created the second highest amount of chances for Arsenal this season, and he hasn't played in the last 11 Premier League games.
That is mental. That is
I feel like
absolutely mental.
it shows how hard done by he's treated, because he's obviously, I know people don't like to say it, but I feel like he's still a class player, obviously. He's just, football's evolving without, like, because I watched Rio Ferdinand's podcast with, he did one with James Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And they're talking about how the number 10 role is kind of disappearing in football. And obviously that's affecting players like Ozil, and how, because managers want a player who's attacking, but at the same time will put the same amount of effort in defence. Like a player that's kind of like Aaron Ramsey or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously Ozil's not like that. So, but attacking wise, Ozil was still top class, and I feel like I would always have him up. Like that's why Arsenal fans love him, because when he does play, like he does always give us a chance of winning a game. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, we definitely need a replacement for him.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that, I think. And just one last point to leave you on, Dan. At the moment, one of the big transfer rumours which have been circulating fairly recently, linking to Arsenal, a couple to be fair, really. The one was potentially Aubameyang leaving the club. Obviously, I know that is something which a lot of Arsenal fans are extremely, wary of. Do you feel like Arteta could potentially keep him around for next season, or do you feel like you're maybe preparing yourself to see him leave?
I think he could maybe, but I think it all depends, because obviously his contract runs out next season. So if he doesn't sign this season, and he doesn't, or we don't sell in the summer, I feel like this next season will be make or break. Like if we don't have a good season where he sees like, okay, Arsenal are moving forward, then he'll want to go. And I understand that, because he's a top class striker.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
He deserves to be winning trophies, and obviously he's not doing it at Arsenal. But at the same time, if we did lose him, yeah, I'd be upset. But I don't think he's irreplaceable, because like his position is a weird one anyway, because he's a striker, but he plays on the left. And then I've watched a few videos on it, and how even though people were saying, yeah, the reason why he's not playing up front is because of Lacazette, but he should play up front. When he plays directly as a striker, he's usually less involved in the game and scores less goals. But I feel like if we did lose him, we wouldn't have that problem of, how are we going to fit him in that pitch? We just have to replace him with another winger. You understand? And so I don't think, it would hurt having his goal scoring go, but I feel like if Lacazette just finds a bit of confidence and keeps that, then I'm not bothered with Lacazette leading the line, because even though I have given Lacazette a lot of criticism myself, but when he is on form, he is another top draw striker.
No, definitely.
I don't know, it would be sad to see Aubameyang go, because I do love him. He is a baller. I mean, but at the same time, it is what it is.
Yeah. And then there's one last one to mention.
To be fair, I feel like
me and Reece were pretty, a player which we were both saying that we were talking about before, someone that we rate quite highly, and it's been extremely, heavily linked to Arsenal, was Thomas Partey. Reece, we were literally just saying, weren't we? What a player he was.
Yeah, I think he would definitely fix some of the problems that Arsenal's defence might have. I think Lucas Torreira has been a bit average this season. I think as central defensive midfielders go, I think he started off the season well, but then he kind of just went off, and he was kind of, I don't know, he was a bit bang average. And as a team that's looking to get European football, you don't need average players. You need definitely some players that are definitely going to make an impact on the squad. So with Partey, it definitely adds that a bit more, defensive coverage with with the problems that they have right now. David Luiz, he likes to jump up the pitch. Partey is someone that could fill in for that role. He could be like, the guy that has the next thing for sort of the reputation of like a Wilfred Ndidi or the reputation of an N'Golo Kante, someone that likes to do the dirty work, someone that likes to get stuck in tackles. I think that Partey could be definitely someone that could fit Arsenal for sure.
Yeah, and Dan, would you agree there with that statement?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having Partey at Arsenal. Like, he's obviously a proven quality player, and he would definitely improve the squad. But whether we be able to attract him, I'm not sure. I don't get too excited when I see news about that because I can't think of any other player that would want to leave Atletico Madrid for Arsenal, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's definitely, I mean, I get guilty of it as well. Whenever you see a big transfer rumor, I think everyone gets a bit excited at times, but it is all about keeping a level head. And guys, like we said so many times before, it's all to see this summer transfer window. We're going to have lots of interesting content coming out soon. But firstly, just to say, Dan, massive thank you for coming on, mate, and talking about Arsenal.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. It's been fun. Good to get a rant out.
Awesome. And if you want to hear more about Dan's career, you can go and check out a video which Reese did over on the British Basketball Scene channel. As a big basketball fan, Reese has been interviewing a lot of top BBL stars, and Dan had an interview on Reese's channel. So please, guys, go and show that some love and hear about Dan's side of his career with his basketball. That will be available in the link of in the bio rather of this video. But yeah, Reese as well, thank you very much for joining me this week.
as always, it's nice to round off the Premier League season. Get stuck into the Champions League and be a neutral fan because obviously Liverpool got knocked out. That's one thing that Arsenal fans can laugh at. The FA Cup final is going to be fun to watch as well. Hopefully there's no tears of sadness, more tears of joy for Dan there.
But there we go, guys.
But yeah,
well, thank you very much. If you want to get involved with us on social media, our Twitter is Pundits Average, our Instagram is The Average Pundits. Please subscribe to us on YouTube as well, or listen to us on our streaming platforms. And if you want to get in contact with us about being on the show, you can DM us on any platform, or you can get a hold of us at theaveragepundits@outlook.com. So thank you as always, guys, and we will see you next time.